the men and women in boots. Their core mandate: to defend and protect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Republic of Kenya. Their bravery knows no limits.
Make a man go through the wall without breaking the wall.
Laziness, it is not in our vocabulary.
But what are their stories, their tales? Military Tales, every Saturday at 9 p.m. with Ben Troy Njoe.
Tutakuombea na tutakupeleka hospitali. Najua utapata usaidizi.
Utapona.
Utapona. Utapona.
Na niende shule.
Uende shule.
Na niandike.
Wow. Na uandike. Umemiss shule?
Amesema kuna brain tumor. Hawezi akaona na saa hii tena hawezi akatembea.
Alikuwa anaona mbeleni?
Alikuwa akiona. Alikuwa anasoma tu vizuri. Na alikuwa akitembea.
Aligonjeka lini?
Ilianza 2023. So mimi naomba usaidizi kwa yeyote anaweza kutuhurumia.
Halafu ukishaziweka hivyo, wacha kuwa hivyo. Chomoa coins. You work hard for your money. Why disregard some of it? Collectively, the coins we disregard can help curb the rising cost of consumer goods. Deposit coins at any bank or use or exchange them at any supermarket or retail store. Chomoa coins.
Very good welcome to you. I am Cynthia Nyamai and this is the Prime Edition. Now tonight, President William Ruto has defended the Kenya Kwanza government on its commitment to service to the people, and he says his government is not thinking about the next election but what he promised the nation. And also in business, I will be telling you more about poultry farming, and especially a system that has been found efficient and might give you a few business opportunities. And in sports, Harambee Starlets beats South Sudan and much more. But first, let's have the highlights. Deputy Police IG Eliud Lagat sneaks in and out of the IPOA offices as he honors summons over the mysterious death of blogger Albert Ojwang. 2 police officers accused of shooting a hawker of face masks during Tuesday anti-police protest to remain in custody for 15 days. It's 30 years behind bars for 2 men charged with the 2019 Dusit D2 terror attack in Nairobi that killed 21 people. Welcome back. Our sign language interpreter is Lucy Maura. Remember, we would love to hear from you. You can send us your comments and feedback on KBC Channel 1, on our social media pages, and also on Cynthia Nyamai on my social media pages on Twitter, Facebook, and also Instagram. Now, President William Ruto has defended the Kenya Kwanza administration's commitment to service delivery, dismissing claims of focusing on the next general elections. The head of state spoke Thursday during the National Executive Retreat held at KCB Leadership Center in Nairobi County, where he dismissed claims that the government overpromised during the campaign period. The retreat will take stock of the government's delivery of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda this far.
During the National Executive Retreat held at the KCB Leadership Academy in Nairobi, the head of state responded to criticism that the Kenya Kwanza administration is focused on campaigns for the next general elections.
The focus of this administration and this team is not the next election. The focus is the transformation of Kenya. And putting a firm foundation for the transformation of our nation into the next generation.
On campaign pledges and delivery of the same to the people of Kenya, this is what the head of state had to say.
We did discuss this morning whether we overpromised, and it was very clear to us that we did not, that Kenya needed transformation. It needed something out of the ordinary, and that is what we have on offer from this administration.
The day-long discussions focused on 7 key areas, namely economy, agriculture, education, health, digital superhighway, MSMEs, and the youth seeking jobs.
And therefore, we provided pathways and avenues for Kenyans, not just to work at home, but to work as a global, professional workforce.
Having reached the half-term of the administration in power and with the broad-based government now in place, the executive has been challenged to focus on accelerating its momentum in transforming Kenya. Isofar reporting for Prime Edition.
2 police officers linked to the shooting of a 22-year-old face mask vendor in Nairobi on Tuesday will remain in custody for 15 days as investigations into the incident continues. Clinzy Masinde Baraza and Duncan Kiprono will be held at the Capitol Hill Police Station following an agreement between the prosecution and defense teams.
On Thursday, Clinzy Masinde and Duncan Kiprono, 2 law enforcers caught on camera during the shooting of Hawker Boniface Kariuki at a close range on Tuesday in Nairobi were arraigned in court. According to the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, when investigations are complete, the officers will face charges of attempted murder and unlawful use of a firearm. The 2 officers will be detained for 15 days, with the case set for mention on Thursday, 3rd July 2025.
So we'll adopt a compromise by the applicant's team, and also since it has been considered by the respondent, so the 2 respondents will be remanded at Capitol Hill Police Station for the period of 15 days.
The matter never took off because the prosecution were requesting for more days, 15 more days, which we have accepted in consensus that the matter be mentioned on the 3rd. Yes. Of July 2025.
And I cannot get any reports from a junior officer. I can only get it from the station commanders.
In a related matter of police brutality, Officer Commanding Police Division Nairobi Doris Mugambi, testifying in the inquest into the death of Rex Masai, has denied any responsibility of her officer's conduct during the June 2024 Gen Z-led protest. Mugambi told Trial Magistrate Geoffrey Onsarigo that no live ammunition was used and all firearms were accounted for.
I will not be surprised because not unless you tell me with a lot of certainty, this cartridge was from a police officer's firearm. We do not enjoy the monopoly of having firearms. We have private firearms. We also have illegal firearms within Simbindi. And if you can go through our statements, we've also demonstrated that during those periods of demonstrations, we were able to recover a firearm.
Following the development, the court has allowed a witness who had testified to be recalled. Hearing will continue for 5 days next month. 29-year-old Rex Masai was allegedly shot by police officers during the protest.
They allow the application by the prosecution seeking to recall inquest witness number 4, Isaiah Murangiri. The ICT support to be provided on the said dates. So the matter will proceed for further hearing on 16th of July, 17th of July, 21st of July, 22nd of July, and 23rd of July.
A year since Rex Masai's death, the inquests continue, with numerous incidents of police brutality being witnessed, the latest one being Tuesday this week. Reporting from Milimani Law Courts, I'm Letua Deborah.
Deputy Inspector General of Police Eliud Lagat is said to have appeared before the Independent Policing Oversight Authority as summoned over the killing of teacher Albert Ojwang. IPOA, however, did not divulge details of the summons and referred the media to the chairman Isaac Hassan, who was said to be out of office. Giverson Minor has a report for you.
The Independent Policing Oversight Authority, IPOA, through its chairperson Isaac Hassan, had on Wednesday summoned Deputy Inspector General of Police Eliud Lagat for grilling on Thursday over the mysterious death of blogger Albert Ojwang.
IPOA has now issued summons to the Deputy Inspector General of Police, Mr. Eliud Lagat, to appear before the authority's investigations team to record a statement.
However, on Thursday morning, the media camped at the main entry to IPOA offices to capture Lagat going in and out in vain. Sources, however, disclosed he accessed the building through a lift at the basement and was grilled for about 3 hours in the presence of his lawyer. However, IPOA could not officially confirm these reports, directing the media to its chairperson Isaac Hassan, who was said to be out of the office at the time. Giverson Minor, Prime Edition.
A Kahawa Law Court has sentenced to 30 years in prison 2 men involved in the 2019 Dusit D2 terror attack that left 21 people dead and dozens injured. Justice Diana Kavetsa found Hussein Mohammed Adile Ali, 22, and Muhammad Abdi Ali, 65, guilty of terrorism-related offenses, including conspiracy to commit a terrorist attack, providing logistical support, and financing terrorism.
The 6-year wait for justice by families of the victims of the Dusit D2 terror attack finally came to an end on Thursday.
On January 15, 2019, Kenya was shaken to its core. The Dusit D2 attack shattered lives, tore families apart, and stained our soil with innocent blood. Children were orphaned, parents were buried, dreams were ended in moments. While the gunmen carried out the violence, they did not act alone. Behind the terrorists were silent supporters, sympathizers, people who enabled the attack.
Though not directly involved in the attack, the judge averred the two were critical enablers helping the attackers settle, plan, and carry out the operation in Nairobi undetected.
Let this sentence therefore speak not only through the law, but through the sorrow of our wounded people. For those who stood with the enemy, who helped to make the attack possible, today justice answers and Kenya remembers. Having said that, I shall now turn to the provisions of the portal to determine the appropriate sentence.
The Office of the Director of Public Prosecution had pleaded with the court to grant them maximum sentences to serve as a lesson and deter against future acts of terrorism.
For the offense of facilitating a terrorist act contrary to Section 9A of Porter, the 2 sentences shall run consecutively. Cumulatively, the first convict shall serve 30 years imprisonment from the date of his arrest.
The Dusit D2 complex located on 14 Riverside Drive in Nairobi came under attack on January 15, 2019 in an incident claimed by Somali-based terror group Al-Shabaab.
The second convict, Mohammed Abdi Ali, is sentenced to 15 years imprisonment for each of the 14 counts for the offenses of facilitating a terrorist act contrary to Section 9A of POTA. The sentences for the 14 counts shall run concurrently. The sentences in D and E above shall run consecutively. That is to say, the second convict shall serve 30 years imprisonment.
Ruth Wamboi for Prime Edition.
Well, members of parliament have raised concerns over increasing cases of financial mismanagement in counties, accusing governors of misusing key funds meant to uplift counties, especially the marginalized regions. While debating the mediated version of the division of the revenue bill, lawmakers emphasized the need for stricter accountability measures before the passage of the appropriation bill, which allocates monies for programs undertaken by both county and national governments.
Lawmakers have faulted governors for failing to utilize funds allocated to devolved units as intended, saying the funds have instead been diverted or mismanaged.
That today in this country, insulin injection is 750 per day for a patient who is diabetic. And I want to call to the governors. We need to reduce the price. Our people are dying. Health is in your hands. Stop looking for bursary.
Even in schools, they only deal with village polytechnics and ECDs. The others is done by NDCDF. So, Mr. Speaker, some of these small things that should be seen are not being seen.
And they are the contractors themselves. The governors are the contractors themselves. And consultancies. And God knows what, fates and dramas and everything else. So, Mr. Speaker, this House has got to rise up to the occasion.
We also want to urge the Senate to also provide proper oversight to the counties, because more often, I think there is some bit of laxity in terms of this oversight.
During the debate, MPs passed the mediated division of revenue bill that provides 415 billion shillings as shareable revenue to counties for the 2025-2026 financial year.
Na kisha kuna bilioni 55 ile ambayo ilikuwa upande wa barabara, kuna bilioni 10 ambayo ni equalization fund. Hizi pesa zote katika zile ambazo walikuwa wametaka bilioni 450 hata zimeongezeka, zimefika kama bilioni 485. Kwa hiyo kitu ambacho tunataka county government muhakikishe kuwa huduma madawa yawe ndani ya hospitali.
Funds the MPs threatened to withhold until a robust tracking and audit mechanism is in place. They singled out roads maintenance levy as one of the most poorly utilized allocations, leaving roads in many counties in deplorable conditions.
That we must conditionalize that money for RMLF. Just like when we do the additional county allocations, that money comes with conditions. Even this one for RMLF must come with. And the cardinal condition on shareable revenue must be accountability and transparency in how this money is utilized.
To address accountability gaps, lawmakers want county assemblies empowered to strengthen oversight at the local level, warning that under devolution, corruption is fast becoming a national crisis. Kamche Menza for Prime Edition.
Thank you, Kamche, for that report. Now, the National Assembly Education Committee has directed the Teachers Service Commission to provide data on all unemployed teachers who have attained the age of 45 years. The MPs are considering allocating a supplementary budget to facilitate the holistic recruitment of teachers above the age of 45 years as part of affirmative action. The lawmakers have also raised concerns over the TSC's policy of posting teachers, demanding equitable distribution.
And there are real and genuine concerns about the recruitment of teachers. You need to start looking at it. What can you do about it? What can you do about it? It was not cast on stone, was it?
It was not cast on stone, Chair.
You need to change your policy or if it requires our intervention, then we are ready, that a teacher must be employed at age 45, so that at least they can serve for 15 years. Let there be a sunset clause that at least by the age of 45 or 50, if a teacher has not been absorbed, let that teacher be employed at that point.
Do you have the statistics of the teachers who are above 45? Because I know from my background, there was a clause that if a teacher clocks 45, you are employed on affirmative action.
It will be a policy directive. It is a proposal that we are taking to the board. The board can make that decision. If the board requires any assistance from this committee, the board will seek the assistance.
Climate change activists are advocating for improved waste management system to help tackle waste in the country. Climate activists are calling for concerted efforts to help create awareness and empower communities in the fight against climate change, which continues to disrupt ecosystems.
Climate change has for years disrupted ecosystems, deepening social inequalities across the world.
What do you want? Climate justice. When do you want it? Now.
And to help come up with solutions, grassroots climate advocates have come up with sustainable solutions to help in the fight against climate change.
Every day we have tons and tons of bottles collected. Again, we are repurposing those bottles. So there's everything that is, whatever is being disposed of can be reused for different purpose.
Junkie Beans, a waste management organization based in Nairobi, has come up with an innovative solution that prioritizes environmental sustainability.
Because people have still not embraced the purpose of segregation of waste at source. Because when we segregate waste at source, we are creating more value into what we are calling waste and calling it a resource.
Junkie Beans says lack of better waste management systems in the slums has deepened the waste crisis. Lucy Ngorongo, the founder of Junkie Beans, says her organization is partnering with others to promote effective waste management.
Our niche is on the organic waste, which we use to convert into poultry, pig and fish feed. Highly recommended because of its high level of proteins, fats and amino acids. And the residue from the organic waste consumption or bioconversion is organic fertilizer, very rich in NPK.
They underscore the need for climate justice in the community with a call to elevate community voices and create sustainable gender-responsive climate action.
We need to put ourselves accountable because environmental waste management is something that people are not keen on, and I feel it's crucial. As much as they're advocating for climate justice and other areas, plastic pollution is one of the biggest problems we face here in Africa.
These local champions recognize that climate solutions can only be achieved through a multi-pronged approach by coming up with better solutions to help tackle climate change. Martini Maslin for Prime Edition.
The intersection between heritage, science and innovation took center stage at the National Museums of Kenya as the 8th Science Expo officially opened its doors. The event also witnessed the commissioning of a groundbreaking indigenous knowledge management system, a first of its kind on the continent. Here is Alvin Kaunda with the report for you.
Held under the theme Economic Transformation Through Heritage Conservation, the 3-day Science Expo is a multi-sectoral platform spotlighting how Kenya's cultural heritage can drive inclusive and sustainable development. Cabinet Secretary for Gender, Culture and Arts and Heritage, Hannah Cheptumo, presided over the launch that brought together researchers, conservationists, innovators and traditional knowledge holders from across the country.
The Heritage-Based Enterprises Agenda by National Museums of Kenya seeks to support cottage industries through promotion of indigenous products, value chains in the national government-funded county aggregation industrial parks, and contribute directly to the attainment of the bottom-up transformation agenda development priorities.
Exhibition on environment and climate change, agricultural transformation, heritage and One Health, as well as enterprise innovation, gave attendees a hands-on experience of how science and tradition are merging to address 21st century challenges.
Snakes play a very important role in our ecosystem. They feed on some of the animals, especially the rodents, which they also spread some diseases.
So by controlling the population of these rodents, they help in reducing the spread of some of the diseases.
So one thing we train the farmers here is how to do soil analysis so that they can get the properties of the soil, and that property will help them know the fertilizers they are going to use.
One of the key highlights was the commissioning of the Indigenous Knowledge Management System developed through the Department of Documentation and Information Project in 13 counties.
The exhibitions are diverse and will serve to offer opportunities for constructive engagement with key stakeholders and other interest groups,
forming a national digital repository of Kenya's rich indigenous intellectual.
Well, it's time for a fast break, but when we come back, we'll be talking about data protection. And in studio, I do have Felix Atandi, who is a cyber security and data protection consultant, to tell us more about it and also the opportunities for you.
We are using on our skin to get that glow. Do we fully understand the risks and the benefits, both short and long term, when it comes to these products and practices?
You look at your diet. What am I taking that is going to boost the skin? You want to take a lot of proteins, because with stretch marks, it's the same collagen that has gone low. That skin has overstretched.
If you have like sensitive skin, you need to avoid things that you've seen they have alcohol inside them or fragrances, because those can further irritate your skin and worsen your condition.
Who is doing the checks and balances for the products that are being sold out here?
When it comes to the mikorogos, unfortunately, KEBS does do its due diligence when it comes to the products that are supposed to be sold. But unfortunately, through back doors and that street in town, you find it just goes unregulated.
Basically, what you're saying is there's a lot of information out there, but first and foremost, where you're buying your product and how to verify that it's an original product.
Looking to advertise on KBC? KBC announcement services are now available on eCitizen. Visit kbc.ecitizen.go.ke and fill out the online application form. It's simple. 1. Complete the form. 2. Upload required documents. 3. Receive a quotation based on word count. And 4. Get notified via SMS when your announcement is ready. Please note, clearly indicate the type of announcement, service station, and all relevant details. 2. All applications must be made online only. Manual submissions will not be accepted. And 3. Announcements will air after news bulletins. For assistance, reach us on email ecitizen@kbc.co.ke or use our social media handles, Facebook, your Facebook account, and X at your X account. Or you can call us on 0723 892 654 or 0734 780 124. KBC announcements. Simple, fast, and digital.
Welcome back. Over 900 residents from Obili village in Kajiado South Sub-County, Kajiado County, have benefited from a free medical camp, a much-needed initiative as the rural communities continue to face difficulties in accessing healthcare services. Details on this and other stories making headlines in our county news roundup.
The 12-day medical outreach in Kajiado County, conducted in partnership with American Medics from Ricky Vista University through an exchange program involving various health stakeholders, aims to serve at least 2,000 patients by its conclusion on Saturday, June 28, 2025.
We realize that there's no facility coverage in between. And so we come out to these far areas where the closest facility is more than 10 kilometers and only has one nurse who's available to even provide services.
Tumeleta kazi ya mahabara, watu wengi wamepimwa damu, wamepata kujua shida zao, wengine wamepatiwa referrals, wameenda kwa hospitali kupata matibabu zaidi.
Meanwhile, Machakos University is set to benefit from 3,000 affordable hostel units in partnership with the National Housing Corporation in a bid to address the housing crisis and improve student welfare.
Today we are very excited that we are actually going to be the first university where student hostels are going to be constructed, and it is going to take the shortest time possible, 3 months to 1 year, so that because the need is very, very, very high at the moment.
Elsewhere, a committee that had been established to maintain security at Mogonga Market in Kisii County has been disbanded.
Kamati ya soko tusisikie tena ati wanafanya kazi ya usalama. Hapa ikijengwa kutakuwa na police post na kutakuwa na ofisi ya chief.
In Homa Bay County, more than 500 students have graduated from various vocational training centers under the Jinoa Fundi Mangula program.
This is a moment of pride and affirmation that targeted investments in youth skills can unlock economic potential and drive inclusive development. This program is not about producing job seekers. It is about nurturing a new generation of job creators, skilled professionals who can support themselves, uplift others, and build our county's economic base.
For Prime Edition, I'm Christine Matunda.
Welcome back. It's now time for business. Now, the use of artificial intelligence in built environment will help streamline processes while addressing ethical issues in the sector. Architects and quantity surveyors are banking on emerging technologies to enhance productivity, eliminate errors, and improve professionalism in the industry. Speaking during the Architects and Quantity Surveyors Registration Board Conference in Nairobi Department of Roads, Secretary Evans Mutai says professionals in the industry should adopt to technology and remain alive in a highly evolving industry.
According to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, the construction market in Kenya is projected to grow by 7.5% in 2025, reaching about 1.02 trillion shillings. However, while the sector is seeing increased investments and is projected to grow, there are concerns about skilled labor shortages and safety standards. Now, experts say embracing emerging technologies may be the silver bullet needed in sealing loopholes facing the sector.
We need to share a database where we have information that we can distribute across, and it's open source. We have a challenge when you're talking about AI, and at the same time, every information we have is kept in a silo somewhere.
We know and we've seen what AI is doing, but we should be ready for it so that we are not left behind. I believe we in the build professionals should not be the last to board the train. We should be among that will be there when it is started.
Speakers at the Architects and Quantity Surveyors Registration Board Conference in Nairobi have said that AI could complement in instilling of ethical practices and discourage bad actors in the construction industry.
You have the potential to harness AI to streamline processes, mitigate risks, and ultimately enhance safety on construction sites. Drone for site inspection, AI models for predicting project outcomes, and automated tasks management are just a few examples of how technology can be used to boost the capacity of our built environment professionals.
We, as a board, we are engaging the counties, and I think Naika alluded that we are starting with the Nairobi County, which is near us and which has got the most development control matters, so that we can be able to see what is good for us. And the most important thing, if we can be able to get a situation where approvals cannot be granted until the consultants get their fees, I think that will be a plus for us.
Some of the AI tools and applications the Kenyan construction industry has already begun applying include design and planning, site monitoring, quality control, predictive maintenance, and robotics. The two-day conference brings architects, quantity surveyors, and other professionals to address challenges facing the industry. More professional bodies are coming in to allay fears that emerging tools like artificial intelligence are coming to take jobs from people. They say that there's going to be a balance between using artificial intelligence and the work. Alan Oko, Prime Edition.
Thank you, Alan Oko, for that report. Now, a comprehensive national digital learning initiative has been launched targeting to integrate technology at an early age. The program, being rolled out by Google Kenya in partnership with Zilla Technology, is geared towards equipping learners with essential digital skills for the modern economy.
It is projected that by the year 2030, about 55% of jobs in Kenya will require digital skills. This surge in demand for ICT skills is attributed to the increasing adoption of technologies like 5G networks, cloud computing and data centers by businesses, including small and medium-sized enterprises. To equip the next generation of workers, Google Kenya, in partnership with Zilla Technology, has rolled out an initiative to digitize learning. The initiative will target learners from pre-primary to university level in a strategic move that is expected to play a critical role in shaping the global workforce.
When you get the Chromebook, it's going to open your world, okay? It's going to open your classroom. Your learning is going to be beyond the four walls. And what is taught in the classroom becomes just a precursor of your learning, so that when you go home, you carry on learning, and that is what we want to happen.
By digitizing learning environments from the foundational stages of education, the program seeks to enhance digital literacy, foster 21st century skills, and boost global competitiveness for Kenyans.
We want to empower teaching and learning to rise to the global level, so that when we get to 2050, we get a country like Germany saying they want employees, and we as a country will say, yes, we have them ready. And actually, you can interview them on Google Meet and then get them to the flight the next day, and that is not going to be a problem because they are already acquainted working at a global level.
The project is being rolled out in July 2025 on a pilot basis, then expanded to cover more schools in third term and next year.
Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa COMESA member states are harmonizing their standards as part of efforts to reduce by half of the number of non-tariff barriers. Alliance for Commodity Trade in Eastern and Southern Africa Chief Executive Officer John Mukuka says that elimination of non-tariff barriers would help boost inter-block trade.
Intra-trade within the common market for Eastern and Southern Africa is valued at 2 trillion shillings. However, the trade is not optimal due to a number of non-tariff barriers. COMESA member states have resolved to harmonize the over 200 non-tariff barriers to boost trade. The initiative will see half of the non-tariff barriers eliminated within a year.
NTBs, we're looking at harmonization of the planting materials, what type of planting materials are required. We're also looking at what type of pests and diseases needs to be eliminated before the product is exported.
Addressing and eliminating NTB's elements can only be achieved through collaboration, dialogue, engagement, and partnership among ourselves, firstly as the private sector and then as the private and public sectors.
Under the arrangement, COMESA member states will harmonize their phytosanitary standards to reduce paperwork at border points.
Bs or SPSs, that hinder trade, regional trade.
COMESA member states will also harmonize their seeds and chemical standards to increase quality of agricultural produce and access international markets.
Harmonization of the planting materials, what type of planting materials are required. We're also looking at what type of pests and diseases needs to be eliminated.
The new measures are expected to more than triple intra-COMESA trade from the current 15% to 50% in 6 years. Benson Druba reporting for Prime Edition.
There is a need for those engaged in film production to keep upscaling on emerging trends to remain relevant. This is according to Youth Affairs and Creative Economy Principal Secretary Fikirini Jacobs, who is challenging creatives to embrace training that help bridge the gap between creativity and technology, as well as emerging technology, including 8K and 6K full-frame sensor options. Speaking at a two-day advanced cinematography masterclasses by the MultiChoice Talent Factory and Sony in Nairobi, the PS said it is key for filmmakers to embrace innovative tools that redefine modern visual storytelling.
I think in the area of business, which it has exploded, but even in the space of empowering our young people with skills.
We are also interested in upskilling industry practitioners across Africa. There should never be a situation, really, where we have a disconnect between the market-ready graduate that we graduate from the academy and the industry that they seek to join.
Across the world, I think we're in a position now where camera technology is so good, and it has been good for so long. I think the main issue is actually probably the skills or the actual production time or the opportunities to actually, grow those skills over in many different forms.
From our early indicators, we show some cautious optimism. We are seeing still green field investment.
Embracing modern poultry farming practices is key if Kenya is to meet growing demand in the local and international market. With new doors opening in Gulf states for fresh eggs and halal-certified chicken, Witec Farming Project Manager Frederick Kamau says adapting new farming practices such as cage systems at scale production could help eliminate local supply shortages and unblock lucrative export opportunities.
Kenya currently produces over 1.6 billion eggs annually and consumes more than 100 million chickens. Overall, the poultry value chain contributes 1.6% to the gross domestic product. But with a growing population and shifting dietary preferences, poultry value chain players believe the current production is still far below Kenya's potential and are pushing for adoption of cages to maximize on space and increase egg production per bird.
The problem that the farmers usually face in poultry industry is the feed prices. They are usually very high because we don't grow the raw materials. We source the raw materials from the neighboring countries like Tanzania and Uganda and Zambia.
He says the battery cage systems is gaining traction among small-scale, peri-urban and urban farmers, a trend driven by the need to lower feed wastage due to better management systems.
We have some farmers that start with around 20 to 50,000 birds, and they do big, they do great, and their return investment comes back within 2 to 3 years. We have set up so many farms, the biggest being Isinya, when I was in Big Dutchman, with around 300,000 birds. The farm for current President Ruto. We have farms in Busia, almost 40,000 birds, in Kajiado, almost 60,000 birds.
Industry data says caged layers produce on average 320 eggs per bird annually, compared to 280 in traditional systems. Trevor Ngendo for Prime Edition.
Kenya is keen on allowing more international airlines to launch flights into the country or increase their frequencies to grow tourist numbers. Dr. Rose Anyona, Deputy Director of the Europe and Commonwealth Directorate at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Diaspora Affairs, says increased air connectivity coupled with the operation of the Economic Partnership Agreement with the European Union and the UK is key to boosting tourism-related businesses.
Kenya attracted 680,373 tourists from Europe in 2024, with the United Kingdom, Italy and Germany ranking as the top markets.
Germany is the third largest tourism market in the world, with millions and millions of people traveling every year. And The share Kenya has so far is quite low, with about 75,000 tourists from Germany. So there's a big potential of increasing it and double the number very easily, with having a better branding, maybe also looking at the cost side. Money for value is an issue for many people.
Kenya targets to grow the tourist arrivals by leveraging enhanced air connectivity, by allowing more airlines to fly in from Europe, as well as diversify the tourist product offering to include wellness and luxury travel.
Well, personally, I've been living in Africa for the last 11 years. I've been posted in other countries. I've been traveling around, and I think this is the most welcoming country. And there's the best mix in terms of cultural heritage, but also landscape and a combination of mountains, and beautiful national parks, beautiful seaside and beaches, and this is something incomparable. I have seen nothing like this in other sub-Saharan countries.
European Union officials have welcomed the introduction of the electronic travel authorization system in Kenya, noting that it had made the country more accessible and competitive than other tourist destinations.
Has recently signed an economic partnership agreement with the European Union, the United Kingdom, and all this provide duty-free access to EU and UK markets for promoting trade, investment, and employment creation. We have also entered into other trade arrangements with other partners in Europe, including joint trade commissions, joint trade and economic committees, to develop and strengthen business-to-business ties with Kenya.
Regina Manyara reporting for Prime Edition.
SACCO members should step up savings to reduce the need of their cooperatives to opt for expensive credit to finance its programs. Harambee DT SACCO Chief Executive Officer Dr. George Ochiri says reliance on external financiers could be avoided if SACCO members step up their monthly savings and their share capital. Speaking during the 6th edition of the SACCO's annual delegates training in Mombasa, Dr. Ochiri challenge SACCOs to aggressively target the youth to join cooperatives to help grow the movement.
In terms of the SACCO and where it is, we are quite happy to announce we are at 38.9 billion in terms of total assets, and our target in terms of revenue for the year 2025, we want to close the year at 7.2 billion.
For the youth, we also want to embrace you into the cooperative movement, reach out, save, and we are urging cooperatives to design products that suits the youth. The youth do not want to be told to wait for 3 months to get a loan. I know they want loans on arrival, and that is why I'm telling the youth that these cooperatives have now even designed Karibu loans. When you come, you'll be given a loan, but part of that loan will go towards the savings, because we also want them to inculcate the culture of savings into the cooperative movement.
That crop continues to survive amid mounting challenges, including adverse weather.
Nafahamu uasis ama uanzilishaji wa sunna hii ya kuchinja katika tarehe 10 ya Dhulhijja. Walipokuwa tayari kumchinja mwanaye, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala aliteremsha kondoo kutoka mbinguni na kumwamuru Nabii Ibrahim kumchinja kondoo yule.
Kuwa na tabia nzuri aliyokuwa nayo Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallama, ili uwe mwenye kupendwa na Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallama na uwe karibu yake siku ya Kiyama.
Laka wal mulk la sharika lak.
Kila mwaka mamilioni ya Waislamu kutoka kila kona ya dunia hukusanyika katika ardhi tukufu ya Maka.
The men and women in boats, they are commanded to defend and protect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Republic of Kenya. Their bravery knows no limits.
Make a man go through the wall without breaking the wall. Laziness, it is not in our vocabulary.
But what are their stories, their tales? Military Tales, every Saturday at 9 p.m. with Ben Troy Njoe.
Welcome back. Now, we have been talking about the Finance Bill 2025, and we have an expert with us in studio. I had mentioned that his name is Felix, and he's corrected me. It's Felix. Felix Atandi, thank you so much for joining us. He is a cyber security and data protection consultant. I know everyone wants us to really get into, in fact, I've already gotten a few questions, the Finance Bill 2025, but let's first begin by looking at Kenya, and if you could describe for us, since you're the expert, the current state of data privacy in Kenya and also protection in Kenya. What has been your experience, and what are you seeing every day at the workplace?
Thank you for having me once again. The current state of data protection in Kenya is complemented by various laws in place. So ideally, the first one is the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act of 2018, which ideally now covers any cybersecurity related issues. And then later on in 2019, there was the Data Protection Act that came into effect. Now, this particular legislation gave the Constitution of Kenya legs, especially 31 C and D of the Constitution of Kenya, which ideally gives all Kenyans or everybody who resides in Kenya the right to privacy.
Yes.
Now, various other legislations have come in place, supporting guidelines, and regulations have also been effected that cover everything to do with data protection. And from where we see it, especially from a regional perspective, I think that's a very good head start, and we shall finally get to full compliance in the short while.
Yes. The reason why we've been talking a lot about the Finance Bill 2025 is because of a discussion that has been going on when it comes to privacy and KRA. What are your thoughts? Should KRA be given that kind of access to people's data? That's the first question. But also the other thing, how do we then also strike the balance and ensure that KRA is able to, because getting people to pay taxes is not that easy, and I guess this to them was an innovative way of being able to collect data and know who owes them tax.
Yes, actually, thank you for that question. Article 52 of the Kenya Finance Act 2025, they wanted to give the Kenya Revenue Authority sweeping powers to be able to, get personal information for all taxpayers, including tax secrets, as well as other data that will ideally enable them to collect more taxes. This was premised again by some discussion or some pointers from the chairman of KRA, who said that there are so many registered taxpayers, but at the end of the day, they're not able to collect enough taxes. Now, striking a balance between tax obligations by the country, as well as data privacy rights by the data subjects
is actually now the biggest debate.
Indeed. But a good thing again to see the National Planning and Budgeting Committee actually struck out that particular article, so that KRA again is not given the sweeping powers, because again, one of the problems that Kenyans have is what safeguards and controls are there in place, when they do decide to do that, what safeguards are there. Now again, the current existing legislations are enough actually, because if KRA feels that somebody is not doing the tax obligations, they can get judicial warrants to go after them, and again that strikes a balance between how much or how deep do we go looking for some of this data vis-a-vis the rights of the data subjects. And again, under the Data Protection Act, there are various rights for data subjects. The right for you to know what type of data is being processed about you, the right to erase that data, the right to alter it, the right to make it portable, and last but not least, the right to avoid automated decision making, especially where AI is used to make decisions on you.
Yes. And we saw this afternoon, or rather Parliament shut it down, but there was a heated debate. But what legal or ethical risks can be there if agencies are allowed access to people's personal data?
So, I mean, many people do process data, and I mean, processing data is not the dictionary meaning of processing. It covers from the moment, you get that data from a data subject, how do you store it, how do you process it, how long do you keep it, and if you have to destroy it, how do you safely destroy that data? So it's a very full data life cycle. Most agencies under the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner are required to register either as a data controller and a data processor, and some of the things that they're supposed to do is, put in place proper controls and safeguards. So, for example, from a cybersecurity perspective, what safety mechanisms have you put in place to protect personal data? And also other controls, like a checklist controls, how, if you're given that power to process the data, how effectively can you do it? So again, it's a very hot debate. We're actually looking out to see where it goes.
Yes. I think also for a lot of people, even as I've been watching this story, is sometimes people don't understand what data is really all about. And some people would be thinking, okay, if they get to see, information about me, my bank statement and so on, what great danger does it pose? And also what opportunities are there? And what are people really looking for when it comes to data? What is in data?
So under the Data Protection Act, personal information is ideally any information that can identify you or a natural person. So it could be your name, your ID number, your phone number. And some of this information is already publicly available.
Yes.
So some of the things that maybe an end user or a Kenyan should take into consideration, one, is be aware of their data rights. I explained before, some of the data subject rights that they have is to know in the first place what type of data does an organization or an entity have about them, and how do they process it. And again, just to follow on the same, when you're able to know what type of data an organization has, for example, how do you protect yourself? So there are a couple of cybersecurity hygienes that you should put in place. So be mindful of the type of data that you put out there. I'll just give a very practical example.
Yes.
When you get into buildings at the foyer or at the entry point, you have to sign in, using your
names,
name,
ID number.
Yeah, exactly. The people who collect that type of data, be it through a digital means or maybe a physical means, like writing down a book. Another example is like schools. How safely do they put it there?
Yes.
There have been stories going around about how some of this data is being sold out to people who require that, that type of data, especially for marketing purposes. So a data subject should know their data rights.
Yes.
They should also practice safe cyber hygiene. Use strong passwords.
Yes.
When you go into a cyber cafe, you have to log out from the machines because it's a public machine. When you photocopy your ID, you have to make sure that you get all the copies, even if one of the copies is wrong. Just to make sure that it is disposed properly.
Yes. The reason why I'm also asking that is because remember last year we had an incident where we saw a lot of young Kenyans on very long queues just selling their data, and they just thought, we're just giving information of ourselves. I think it was going for close to $100, but it was so interesting to see how people can just give away their data and not understand the importance of safekeeping data. Who should be educating Kenyans when it comes to data? And we're going to talk about the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner, but who should actually be educating Kenyans?
This is a two-way thing. First of all, the onus remains on the data subject or the normal Kenyan.
Yes.
So ideally, when you do understand there are proper regulations like the Data Protection Act in place, to control how your data is processed, the onus begins with you. And then again, all organizations that do process data, they also have, limitations on how they do these things. And again, the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner has a list of things they're supposed to do. First of all, they have to register either as a data controller or a data processor. And some of the other things that follow down the line is how well do they process that data? What limitations are there about that data? Like, for example, if you collect some data, maybe for example, to do some marketing programs, how sure are you that after the marketing, thing has finished,
Yes.
they do not, distribute that data to other processors, or do they use it for other purposes that were not intended when they were collecting that data? So it really falls in between the two of them.
Yes.
Again, the government has gone a long way to, to sensitize people on data protection. Kenya is a very unique case because we're very much digitally connected.
Yes.
Smartphones and digital devices. And going forward, I mean, part of the civic education should not just come from the government. It's important that organizations, be private or public, take it upon themselves to educate data subjects on how they process their data.
Yes. How effective is the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner? Because even as the KRA discussion was going on, one of the things I was wondering is how effective are they, and can they even protect us from the state or even other government institutions?
Well, the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner is an institutional office.
Yes.
It should be independent, ideally. But from how it works on the ground, it's really hard, especially to monitor what the government does with your data.
Yeah.
And again, a couple of groups that are, privacy oriented, like the Data Protection Governance Society of Kenya, have been, giving proposals on how to do this, and part of those proposals is, giving the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner more powers, to regulate how data is processed, be it private, again, not just to function as another arm of the government, but as an independent body.
And what would you say are some of the most pressing cyber threats facing Kenyans today?
One of the biggest attack vectors or way data breaches occur is especially on email. Email is a very important way of communication, and through digital means, people like clicking links, and especially something that is motivating them, especially something to do with money. So if you're an employee and you get an email that tells you that you're supposed to get a raise, or some money is supposed to be sent and you did not give the proper details, you have to be very careful of clicking on some of those links, downloading illegal programs, accessing illegal websites, and there are so many out there.
And the WhatsApp groups.
Yes, again, also on the WhatsApp groups, those forwards that you get.
Yes.
Some of them are malicious. Not everybody has the best intentions for you.
That's
and again,
true.
also other people, if I can just maybe talk on it, they use modified versions of some of these, messaging apps. Like, they don't take the original WhatsApp from the Play Store. Maybe they use like WhatsApp GB, WhatsApp FM, which have more, features, but again, some of these things are done by other people, and they cannot, give you the proper explanations on how they do process some of this data, and some of them could be malicious people.
Yes. I want us to look at small businesses, and there's a lot of talk now with even small businesses. If you want to scale up, you should use AI, you should look at technology. But how prepared would you say small businesses in Kenya are?
Now, from a data privacy perspective, we already have a solid legislation in place, being the Data Protection Act. They are supporting guidelines and guidance notes that support, the legislation itself on how to register as a data controller, how to report some of these breaches to companies or to organizations, how to, also access the ODPC in case you think something's not being done right with your data. Now, from an AI perspective, we don't have really AI legislation, but I think Kenya has something working on it. So maybe say 2025 to 2030, we have a roadmap, an AI roadmap by the government. And again, they're also working towards getting a proper legislation for AI. People shouldn't be really worried, and I think there's something going on. When the time comes, when the time is right, when there's public participation, people should be able to give their views.
Yes. And some of the laws now that we are looking at are looking at even real-time data tracking. And I've been wondering, what are the risks of centralized surveillance systems?
Now, it really depends on who's doing this surveillance. It could be public, it could be a private entity.
Yes.
But again,
like the Kenya Information and Communications Amendment Bill, it requires. But I've been wondering, what are the risks, especially when it comes to centralized surveillance systems?
So maybe just on top of, from the top of my head,
yes.
When you have a centralized depository of information, it again becomes a single point of failure,
yes.
meaning that there's something we call a CIA triad, confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data.
Yes.
So if, for example, from the confidentiality perspective, some of your data is disclosed to other people unknowingly or by mistake, then that single repository containing a lot of this data, for example, Huduma numbers, it becomes a big risk. The availability of it again, if, for example, a communication line that's supposed to draw some of that data from the central repository goes down, that data is not available when it is required again. So that is one of the major risks, being a single point of failure. But then again, because most of this data is usually siloed meaning that if you have an organization, the accounts team has their own data, the marketing team has their own data, the HR team has its own data, you're not able to be efficient and get the most out of it. There are advantages and disadvantages, but the advantages supersede the disadvantages.
Yes, and now there's a lot of talk of AI and even technologies like biometrics. What protection should be put in place in handling such sensitive and emerging forms of data?
So under the Data Protection Act, biometrics is classified as sensitive data. So when you do process sensitive data, there are extra lengths that an organization has to go through to process it. Be it your genes, be genetic information, your race, your spiritual orientation. It has to be really processed very, with the utmost importance and with the utmost safeguards. Children data, again, is another example of sensitive data. Now, going forward, part of the proposals, like, for example, the Data Protection, the Data Governance and Privacy Society of Kenya is to expand the definition of sensitive data to include, again, things like, membership to associations, as well as, political opinions, something that was not thought of when the original Data Protection Act came through. AI is ideally an enabler or a complementing thing to whatever people do every day, especially if they're using digital devices. Take the utmost care. We already have something being worked on, especially from a legislation perspective, yes, covering artificial intelligence as well. When the time comes, we'll be able to dissect it properly.
Yes, we already have questions coming in. Someone is asking, what advice would you give ordinary Kenyans, this is Mary Kamau, about protecting their digital identities? I will be asking you some of the questions that we have from Kenyans, but first, let's take our last break.
I'm gonna praise.
The only thing you can give in life is money, but there is so much that you can give, and in the process of giving, there's so much that you can receive.
You're giving your time to somebody who actually needs it. You're also giving your talent. So each one of us has a gift and a talent that is natural to us. So there's so much giving opportunities we can do. And the going over and above is the act of kindness. The person who feels they are stingy, I would say, is that you actually have something you can give.
Siwezi kukubali. Wizara moja kuwa na mawaziri wawili. Si mimi Subira.
Vile ninavyopata hiyo fununu ni kwamba ni kweli waoa.
Ataenda wapi? Acheza, alioa. Alisafari, alioa. Alicheza na Amina lakini si mimi Subira.
Kuna chungu cha viazi tamu hapa. Nina mengi sana lakini siwezi kukwambia.
Kiko wapi?
Ndio hiki.
Yaani wewe unataka mtu akiwa hapa kwangu atulie akae hapa, si mtu kutangatanga kwenda.
Unataka nishinde hapa nikifanya nini? Tutakuwa sambamba mimi na yeye. Kama yeye ajua huu, Na mimi naye najua huu.
Mwambie ukweli wako.
Yaani msijadala pia waunga mkono maneno.
We are talking about data protection, and in studio I was speaking to Felix Atandi, talking to us about cybersecurity and data also protection as a consultant. With the debate, there has been a lot of debate, as I said again, about the Finance Bill 2025 and the proposal by KRA to be able to have access to more personal data. And we can see that there's a lot of talk of data, even when it comes to AI, to protection. But every time there is a challenge, there are also opportunities. What opportunities are there for us in the market, especially that now people are looking to get a lot more data from Africa?
Data is a single unit of data is a very important thing. For example, actually it surpasses the value of gold. Now, what artificial intelligence does is it has to use some of this data, to make clear insights or analytics out of it. So when you do provide your data maybe to an entity or an organization, you have to be sure how well they're going to use it. And at the point of providing some of that information, you have to be sure explicitly for what purposes they're going to process that data. And under the Data Protection Act, one of the principles is purpose limitation. So, for example, you can't collect data. Maybe, for example, to make communications effective, or maybe to communicate to our customers to make the experiences better, and then later on use that data again to market other products without explicit consent from the data subject.
Yes.
AI is here to stay. We can't avoid it. It's really evolving really quickly, so it is upon us to play catch up, especially from a regulatory perspective. Coming from societies, for example, the Law Society of Kenya and other like-minded organizations, they already have caucuses as well as roundtable meetings on how to safely protect some of this data. And again, Kenyans are very proactive. For example, if they see something is going wrong, especially when their data is being processed, they do shout. Like, for example, the Article 52 of the Kenya Finance Bill proposal that was supposed to give KRA those sweeping powers. It was part of public participation, as well as feedback from lawmakers that made them drop that part of it for this time. Hopefully, again, they don't come back with it next year.
Yes.
But hopefully, if they do come, we'll have proper safeguards in place.
I suspect it will still come back again, and that's why having these discussions are very important. We have a few questions from our viewers. We have Gerald Omondi, who is asking, what key reforms of safeguards would you recommend to balance national security, economic policy, and individual digital rights?
Yes, when we began this discussion, we talked about, striking a balance between, legitimate purposes for, processing data and the rights of the data subject. It could be
a very thin line.
From a tax perspective, like, for example, tax obligations. It could be national security, obligations. Now, it's really tough to do it, so it's a give and take. But when there are proper safeguards and controls, like, for example, from the government, if people are able to, be content and be happy that a government entity is going to process some of their data like it was intended, then I think we can get a mature national security perspective to it.
Yes.
But until then, it is more of a cat and mouse game. So the government wants to do something some of the times with good intentions, but speaking from a historical perspective, it becomes really hard to sell that idea.
Yes.
But going forward again, we continue asking people to give their views for the companies that are putting some of these systems, especially very large systems that process personal data, to do proper data protection impact assessments, especially when they're processing that data, it could provide a risk to the data subject.
Yes.
Do a proper data protection impact assessment, look at all the processing cycles through the data life cycle, what safeguards have been put in place, and in case there's a breach, how do you handle that breach, which is more a very important aspect of it as well.
Yes, yes. And I'd introduced a question here from Mary, who says, do you believe Kenya is on the right path to becoming a model for digital privacy in Africa?
Yes, indeed. From the East Africa region as well as the Sub-Saharan Africa, Kenya has taken the right steps, towards digitization, as well as legislation that, cover how the digitalization journey goes through. Speaking about other countries out of Kenya, you really have to go out there and see how it works. And I can tell you Kenya is on a good trajectory with proper leadership and, proper enforcement mechanisms, especially with things to do with data breaches and, processing that infringes on data subject rights. We are ideally on the right path.
Yes, yes. And talking about infringing on rights, there's someone here called Jane, who says that she has a school and she wants to find out how can she protect her school because of handling children and just sometimes taking up photos and so on. How does she then ensure that the rights of the children are not infringed by the school and she doesn't get sued?
Yes, that's a very good question.
Yes.
There is a guidance note from the ODPC, especially from the educational sector, like other sectors in health, payment service providers, on how to protect data. Now, the first step to do that is to have proper policies in place, especially a data protection policy that would cover how data, especially for children, is processed. I gave an example of, for example, if you're entering a school and you have to sign in, for example, you want to go see a student. If you did have a proper data protection policy, it will cover how do you collect that data, how do you use it, so that you don't fall to traps. Like, for example, some of the things I work with, you get a message on your phone and it tells you, mtoto amemua na nyoka, send this money. Where did they get that data? And you see some of that data is very specific. They know your name, they know your kid's name, they know the class they are. So if you're not very careful, you can fall into some of those traps and, and get your money lost. But now from the educator perspective, have a proper data protection policy that covers how do you process the data. For the example of, photography, that is again built into the data protection policy. Like if you have to take photographs, you have to have a privacy notice. Now the privacy notice will tell you we would probably want to take photographs of you, and when you do take those photographs, we are going to process it for this and this specific information. Again, remember, children's data is classified as sensitive data, so you can't really, ask a child to take the photo. You have to ask a guardian, especially if they are below 18 years. Yes.
Yes, yes. We finally have a question from a gentleman, John, who says, what advice would you give to ordinary Kenyans about protecting their digital identities and data in today's environment? And you had touched about this a little bit earlier on.
Yes, especially on cyber hygiene.
Yes.
Maybe I can just list them on some of the things that they should usually do. Now, having strong passwords, and strong password is something that you cannot guess or something drawn out of your name. One of the other places, again, where Kenyans lose some of their data is especially on social media. So if you have a social media account, you're advised, not to use a single password, especially for work and also for your social media, because social media is one of the easiest way to, social engineer somebody. Use multi-factor authentication. What that means, 2 levels of security. When you use a username and password combination, you can also use one-time passwords maybe sent onto your SMS, so that in case somebody guesses your password, they're not able now to get to the next level because they have to have access to your phone.
Yes.
I gave another example again. You are not supposed to use public Wi-Fi, especially if it's free.
Yes.
So when you're in a public place like an airport or a market, avoid using some of those free public Wi-Fi spots, especially if you are going to look at your financial data, like log into your bank. Even some of this Wi-Fi mtaani, where people resellers, they do usually sell some of these services. I would probably advise the ODPC to go after those people, because you can just find a Wi-Fi there, connect to it, it will tell you that you can buy it for 10 bob. But some of these providers don't even have a data protection policy to guide how to do it. How sure are you that when you connect to a public Wi-Fi, even as much as you're paying for it, that they're not going to use your data for something that was not intended in the first place. Some of these examples, come into place, especially from a cybersecurity perspective. Again, be mindful of what you post out there. Some of you may not be very intentional, but when you do it, things might go wrong in future. And again, the internet never forgets. Even when you delete your social media, you can be able to get it from archives or things called the Wayback Machine. You can go back in time and access some of the data that is available on the internet.
Yes. So is this a very good time to be in your business, cybersecurity and data protection? Because even as you were talking about the risks, I was just seeing business opportunities. Like, for example, the way we go and we sign up in a new building, you sign with security, you put in all your data. There must be opportunities to find ways for that people can sign in without having to share too much or ensure that their data is protected. So a lot of opportunities for you.
Yes, actually there's a lot of opportunities, especially from a career perspective. Now, when you double into data protection and cybersecurity, it's a very broad area. There's data privacy, there's data security, there's AI as well. There are things people call cryptocurrencies as well, or cryptos. Good thing, again, the government is on the forefront on this. There's currently virtual assets service providers bill, which deals with cryptocurrencies being in Parliament under determination. So for any IT student out there who wants to get into cybersecurity and data protection, now is the time. And if it's not now, it's right now.
Yes. Thank you so much. I should even change the intro and say we were listening to the billionaire Felix Atandi. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. Now we're going to change gears a little bit, and it's now time for sports with Karen Kibet.
Wiki hii kwenye Mkulima
tunaangazia kilimo mjini cha mboga za asili.
Wakati unafanya ukulima wako, ni vizuri uelewe unapanda mboga uuzie kina nani. Hawa watu wangependa mboga aina gani?
Na kisha tutamfuga nyenje.
Ungana nasi Jumamosi saa 10:30 kwa uhondo kamili wa kilimo.
Hapa KBC Channel 1.
19 nations will compete in the Total Energies CAF African Nations Championship, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania 2024, which will be staged from 2nd to 30th August 2025. Amongst the 4 groups in the tournament A to D, Kenya is pooled in Group A, together with Morocco, Angola, DR Congo and Zambia.
Algeria from the set piece, the header is on target, but it's saved.
This unique competition featuring the best locally based players from across the continent definitely has something for everyone. Just bring your A game as you let it flow live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
A very good evening to you. Welcome back to KBC Prime Edition. My name is Karen Kibet. Let's now take a look at what's making headlines in the world of sports. Now, Kenya is set to host the final match of the 2024 African Nations Championship, CHAN, at the Kasarani Stadium in Nairobi on the 30th of August this year. This decision was reached by the Confederation of Africa Football, CAF, in consultation with the 3 co-hosts nation, Kenya, Tanzania and Uganda. The opening match of the 2024 African Nations Championship will be held on the 2nd of August at the Benjamin Mkapa Stadium in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. The Mandela Stadium in Kampala, Uganda, has been designated to host the 3rd and 4th place matches. Additionally, Nairobi will host Group A matches involving Kenya, Morocco, Angola, DR Congo and Zambia. Dar es Salaam will host Group B matches involving Tanzania, Madagascar, Mauritania, Burkina Faso and Central African Republic. Kampala will host Group C matches involving Uganda, Niger, Guinea, South Africa and Algeria. Zanzibar has been designated as one of the host venues of Group D matches involving defending champions Senegal, Congo, Sudan and Nigeria. Congo-Brazzaville has been reinstated into the 2024 African Nations Championship after a successful appeal against Equatorial Guinea, who had complained about the fielding of an ineligible player. Now, the National Olympic Committee of Kenya elections, which was scheduled today, failed to take off after the High Court temporarily suspended the exercise pending the hearing and determination of a petition filed at the Eldoret High Court. The case is set to be heard on the 23rd of June this year.
For the second time, the National Olympic Committee of Kenya NOC elections have flopped. A petition filed at the Eldoret High Court by Joycelyn Nyambura against the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission IBC sought to stop elections until grievances that stalled the polls on the 24th of April are resolved. Some candidates welcomed the High Court decision, accusing the Sports Disputes Tribunal of favouring rivals allied to the current NOC leadership.
The New Dawn Coalition expresses grave concern at the series of decisions rendered by the Sports Dispute Tribunal, SDT, between 10th and 18th June 2025, presided over solely by Honorable Alan Mola. The implied decisions exposes a dangerous and unprecedented pattern of legal bias, procedural manipulation, and undue suppression.
The elections were postponed in April after 4 affiliate federations, handball, volleyball, triathlon and taekwondo, disagreed on voting modalities. According to NOC election regulations, in the absence of a president of a federation, the Secretary General is eligible to vote.
The Electoral Congress had failed to resolve the issues, making tribunal intervention necessary. This application of res judicata as a gag rule stifled justice rather than promoted finality. Misrepresentation of NOC constitution and IOC directives. Honorable Alan Mola selectively interpreted Articles 13 and 17 of the NOC constitution, despite clear language in clause 17.12 allowing either the President or Secretary General to act as delegate. A letter from the sports registrar confirming the same triathlon case, for example, para 13, the tribunal ignored this authoritative guidance and enforced non-existence dual signature requirements.
NOC's executive committee has, however, assured of a fair electoral process once matters pending in court are resolved. If Kenya fails to hold elections as soon as possible,
we have 3 matters before the High Court. For as long as the matters can proceed without orders to stop the elections, we can be able to proceed. But where the orders are that we cannot proceed with the election, and I would like to imagine the orders to stop the election is so that it's there is fairness, so that the people who have gone before court, they can be listened to, and then the respondents can also be able to put their case. That's what I believe will happen in the next 2 days.
The International Olympic Committee will be forced to remedy the situation by appointing a normalization committee to run the NOC's affairs until elections are held. A total of 25 affiliate federations and 4 executive committee members, who include the female and male athletes representatives, the woman representative and the president of NOC, who is also an IOC member, are eligible to vote. NOC Vice President Shadrack Maluki and incumbent Secretary General Francis Mutuku are vying for the chairmanship position. Bernard Okumu, Prime Edition.
Thank you, Okumu, for that detailed report. Moving on, Kenya's Harambee Starlets continued with their 100% record at the Sekafa Women's Championship by thrashing South Sudan 4-0 in their 3rd game of the tournament at the Azam Complex in Tanzania. Now, Starlets, who defeated Burundi 3-0 in their opening game and went on to beat holders Crested Cranes of Uganda 4-0, went ahead as early as the 3rd minute through Faith Mboya. South Sudan managed to keep Starlets at bay for the rest of the half, but 2 minutes into the 2nd half, Captain Violet Wanyonyi increased the lead before being substituted. Martha Emodot scored a 3rd goal in the 66th minute, Just before the final whistle, Elizabeth Ochaka added a fourth to hand Starlets the well-deserved 4-0 win. It was the third straight loss for South Sudan, who already lost to Tanzania and Uganda, and they remain bottom of the table in the tournament that comes to close this Saturday with Kenya against hosts Tanzania. The newly crowned Kenya Volleyball Federation Women's League champions, Kenya Pipeline, has vowed to continue its dominance of the local scene, as they also expressed their desire to reclaim the exclusive African title. Kenya Pipeline Company hosted a breakfast for the team where they also rewarded them a check worth 2 million shillings for their outstanding achievements this season.
Kenya Pipeline, who claimed their 14th National League title after a hard-fought victory against Surprise Package DCI, have now switched their attention to the forthcoming local and international competitions.
The guys have worked, the team has worked, we have gotten the best support we can, and we will continue working towards our skills to make sure that the trophies that we didn't get this season, we bring them back home next season, because we are capable of doing that. We have a great team, we have a strong team. And with the support we are getting from the management, we are going to do much, much better things.
Pipeline, who finished third at this year's Africa Women's Club Volleyball Championship in Abuja, Nigeria, were awarded 2 million Kenya shillings by their company for their outstanding performance in the season that also included taking silver during the Zone 5 Championship in Rwanda.
We are starting the preparation today. The next season starts in September 2025, and I can assure you, with a lot of hard work and the support from the company, who is a sponsor, we should be able to see this team again retain the trophy. But more importantly, we want to call for the Africa Championship trophy.
Meanwhile, the club is targeting to clinch this year's Kenya Cup, having already qualified for the quarterfinals scheduled next month.
Finally, we've been able to bring back something, and we've seen that they have kept their word. They've recognized our efforts, and that is motivating, encouraging, and as we move on to the next season and the next championships ahead, this alone keeps motivating the players. They know that there's a reward after good performance. So
Kenya Pipeline is also expected to take part in this year's Rwanda Genocide Memorial Tournament, with the team set to travel for the games this weekend.
I want to request the
Iku Spiders football team has set their eyes on finishing top of the FKF Meru County League table after getting a shot in the arm through the SportPesa Tujiamini initiative. The Tujiamini team visited the club in Igembe, having competed in last year's Tujiamini Cheza Dimba tournament in the Eastern region. Once just a group of youth playing casually in their village, Iku Spiders have now climbed to the third position on the FKF County League table and are aiming to finish top this season. The Tujiamini initiative is SportPesa's community-centered initiative to support talent and grassroots projects in Kenya at an annual budget of 30 million Kenya shillings.
Sai kuna ile mentality iko tunacheza county league. Unaona? Juu tuko na ile support our aim ni kucheza next time regional, division 2, division 1, NSL. Na Mungu akiwa mbele hata premier tunaweza panda.
Tuliingia county league, tumecheza vizuri. Saa hii tuko number 3 na matarajio yetu tunataka kuwa number 1.
Kitambo tulikuwa tunacheza ile mpira tu ya village, mpira haina protocol, mpira haina procedure, lakini for now ofisi ni imara. Tumeweza kupata professional football ile ambayo vijana wetu wanacheza. Na ndio maana tumequalify kuingia county league.
Leo tuko hapa Maua to do a follow-up story on one of our beneficiary teams, Iku Spiders, that benefited in the 2024 Tujiamini edition. And I would say this is a success story, seeing them rise from leagues and now playing in the county FKF league at number 3. That is so delightful.
Now finally, Saudi Pro League side Al Hilal side held Spanish giants Real Madrid to a 1-1 draw at the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami in their opening Group H match on the ongoing 2025 FIFA Club World Cup. Al Hilal finished the match with a well-deserved point thanks to Yassin, who saved a penalty by Federico in the second minute of stoppage time after they were awarded a penalty following a VAR review. Real Madrid had taken the lead in the 34th minute through Gonzalo before it was cancelled 7 minutes later by former Wolves midfielder Ruben via a penalty after a fall by Raul. RB Salzburg overcame Pachua 2-1 in another Group H clash as Manchester City kicked off their campaign with a 2-0 win over Casablanca in a Group G match marred by Rico Lewis' red card.
And he was right on the edge of the penalty area.
Al Hilal finished the match with a well-deserved point thanks to Yassin Bonu, who saved a penalty by Federico Valverde in the second minute of stoppage time after they were awarded a penalty following a VAR review.
Valverde with a chance to win it for Real Madrid. It's stopped by Bono. Valverde can't find the rebound.
Real Madrid had taken the lead in the 34th minute through Gonzalo Garcia before it was cancelled 7 minutes later by former Wolves midfielder Ruben Neves via a penalty after a foul by Raul Asensio.
Before half-time, it's Neves! Coolly, calmly placed past Courtois, and Al Hilal have their levelling goal in Miami.
RB Salzburg overcame Pachuca 2-1 in another Group H clash as Manchester City kicked off their campaign with a 2-0 win over Wydad Casablanca in a Group G match marred by Rico Lewis' late red card. Phil Foden opened the scoring after 2 minutes at the Lincoln Financial Field after a good combination with Jeremy Doku.
The keeper and Phil Foden is it to score inside two.
The pair combined again just before half-time to double their advantage, with the Belgian converting a corner that was swung in from the right.
A good set piece, and this time to finish is Jeremy Doku.
There was some drama as the clock ticked down when Lewis caught Samuel Obeng in the face with a stray boot and was given the marching orders.
Obeng's head. Red card for him.
And those were all the sports stories we had for you right here at KBC Sports. My name is Karen Kibet. I'll see you tomorrow for Easy Friday. Have yourself a peaceful night. I hand you back to my colleague, Cynthia Nyamai. Hi, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
So good to see you too. And I'm definitely looking forward to tomorrow's Easy Friday with you.
Thank you.
Now, I want to thank a lot of you today who have sent in questions about cybersecurity. And as you have seen, we asked your questions because your voice matters here at KBC Channel 1. Now, from the rest of the team and I, we do want to wish you a very good night.
Say the earth without art would just be, get it? We circumnavigate the globe and traverse the local scene to bring you arts and culture at their very best. From fine art, culinary art, performing arts, and even cultural events, you name it, and we have got you covered. My name is Kevin Kasioki, and I will be serving you this and much, much more.